Welcome back, DIVEBOMB IndyCar podcast, here to review the Java House Grand Prix of Monterey at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca to complete our 5th race review in 4 weeks. I am shattered and I've got absolutely nothing to do with the series, so I'm sure the drivers are very much looking forward to this break, and I'm sure even more so the team personnel are very, very much looking forward to this 1 week break we've got before Portland. Because I am shattered and all I really do is watch the races and record this podcast and write the odd piece for the website. So, crazy period. I hope it's a bit more stretched out this year, but we can sort of break a little bit after this week for 1 week, and then before we know it, the season's over. But chaotic stretch, another race review to do, but it's always fun. Always love doing them.
It's been relentless, hasn't it? Like, I mean, usually you have one of these stretches in a season, usually the May period, but this year, in the space of like a 2-month period, essentially, or 3-month period, I guess, there have been 2 stretches of pretty much either 4 or 5 successive weekends of cars on track. So I do really feel for the teams and drivers. And obviously, we moan a lot about the calendar, and that's not the time to do it now. But I think with everything being so condensed, that's why, like, you look this time a month ago, we'd only just got past the halfway point. This time, 2 months ago, it was the Indy 500, and that was round 6 of the season. Yet here we are, and there are 3 races left. It's really quite astonishing how fast it goes. And yeah, just been a brutal stretch. Teams, drivers. I can't imagine how exhausted they must be, and just hope they get a bit of a break. Because obviously last year we had the Olympic break, so that kind of acted as a bit of a mid-season break to recharge after May and the few races beyond May as well. But this year it's been May, you have a couple of races in June, and then July is basically May all over again. So yeah, madness, but can't believe we're that close to the end now. It's crazy.
Well, next year is the World Cup, so I wonder if there'll be another break for that one.
Good point. That's a good point.
It wasn't as chaotic a weekend as we've had at Toronto or Iowa. Where were we before that? Mid-Ohio? We were at Mid-Ohio before that.
Yeah, we had Mid-Ohio. I nearly combined the two then. We had Mid-Ohio.
That's the best way of putting it, just to combine the stretch. Mid-Ohio, Toronto, Seca.
Brilliant. Yeah, it wasn't thrilling. It wasn't quite the wild wackiness that we've had. And actually, after first practice, I kind of thought it was going to be, because this is 3rd season since we had that repave in 23, where it was just insanely grippy and people were going for some obscene moves, and the race was just utter mayhem in that final finale at Laguna Seca. And practice 1 this year kind of showed that, I mean, there were a lot of people spinning, making mistakes. I think we had Rossi crashing, we had Di Francesco crashing, heck of a lot of spins, and drivers bemoaning just the lack of grip. So I thought, oh my word, here we go again for a completely different reason. But that was actually pretty well. There were a few accidents, but it was a fairly not massively eventful, was it, really?
Not for IndyCar standards. I'm sure in general motorsport standards, it's like a non-chaotic IndyCar race is still very chaotic. But this was less chaotic by IndyCar standards, I think, is what we were saying. But let's get talking on Álex Palou, who took his 8th victory, 8th exclamation mark of the season at Laguna Seca. He takes his 3rd victory at the circuit in 4 seasons, and Palou obviously spoke to us last week saying he doesn't ever lead races start to finish, and if you watch the races, they are more exciting than it proves to be. But this one, I think he certainly did lead from start to finish. I think Barber was the other one of the season where he was really, really a class apart from the rest of the field. His qualifying gap was about 3 tenths over Pato O'Ward, and he held his lead on the restart, which he didn't do last year, actually. But from that point onwards, it was never really in doubt, was it? Once Palou gets to the front, it never seems in doubt. He keeps on bringing up Mid-Ohio, his little mistake to say, oh, it's not over until it's over. But I mean, considering he's won 8 victories this year, he's got 8 victories this year. I don't think we can blame him too much for that. But it was another fantastic weekend from Palou, textbook. And yes, he's got a lot of wins in various different ways, but this was one of the few we've actually seen where he's just completely dominated. It is this track really which seems to suit Palou so well. We've seen it in years past, even. In 24, he only got 2 victories last season. In 2022, this was his only victory of the year at Laguna Seca. This really is probably his best track on the calendar. He's never finished off a podium there, and obviously continues this streak going. But it was another masterful weekend from Palou, where he was, again, just a class apart from the rest of the field. Every restart, he was so assured. Every time the caution came out, his gap would get reduced, but he'd build it up to 4 or 5 seconds within a matter of laps, and it was dominant. It was about as perfect of a weekend I think you could really get in IndyCar. And shocks came this weekend, trying to hype up this championship battle, and I think that was a bit far-fetched, but now it's beyond any doubt that Palou will seal their 4th championship, and I mean, it couldn't be more deserved, and this race was just the epitome of how good his season has been.
Yeah, I mean, he said it's possibly his best weekend yet, and I mean, who's to doubt him saying that? Like, I feel like he still is breaking new ground. As you know, they keep mentioning that Chip Ganassi said at the very start of the season that we're only scratching the surface, and he's still getting better, and that's something that Palou's agreed with, and pretty scary, really, because he genuinely is. He's still having weekends that he's looking at and thinking, oh, even by my standards, I've never done anything like that before. And it was a race of such control, but a race of also resilience, I would say, because he was pegged back 5 times really by cautions, I guess 4 times after really building out a lead, but he kept on coming back after every one of them and getting just his restarts were pretty unbelievable. And then he'd just run away again and never really came under any pressure. The only 11 laps he didn't lead were because Siegel was ahead of him on a completely different strategy. And even then, he made a pretty outrageous outside pass. I think it was at turn 3, Palou, which was, yeah, that was amazing. It was his classic kind of, he's patient, but when he needs to make a move, he'll kind of take a calculated risk. And that was really, really, really impressive. But yeah, I guess you can make the argument for any road course on the calendar as being his strongest, but Laguna seems to be the one he really loves the most. And yeah, those 3 wins and never finishing off the podium in 5 visits now to the track really reinforced that. And it's just such a technical track that I think really rewards that smoothness, that precision of his driving style. And yeah, just to get statistical for a moment, that's 8 wins now for the season from 14 races. That's 57.1% of races. He's won over half of the races, which is just unprecedented, really. Like, we just don't see that in modern IndyCar, in this era of IndyCar that's really regarded by the drivers as competitive and as high level as it's ever been. And I mean, he's the first driver since Bourdais in 2007 to win 7 races, but also 8 races now. I think Bourdais got 8 that season. Now 10 podiums as well for the season for Palou. He's only been off the podium 4 times, and all those podiums have been top 2 because obviously he's got 8 wins and a pair of second place finishes. His Mid-Ohio disaster where he it's so funny that he keeps mentioning that as some massive catastrophe when literally all he did was drop some wheels and lost a win.
I said this to you as well. The amount of times he mentioned the fact he lost the lead at Laguna last year on the start, it's like, you still won that race, Alex. You don't need to worry. Every small mistake he's ever made, he will never let down.
But this thing is, he doesn't make big mistakes. Like, all I can think of from recent years is that big Iowa one last year, and even that in the end didn't come back to bite him at all. And I mean, Mid-Ohio is definitely not coming back to bite him, I think we can safely say. But yeah, he just doesn't make many. That's why he always hangs on to these things. I respect him, bless him. He's a very humble guy. I respect the humility and him saying kind of, oh, well, it's not over till it's over, because look at what happened at Mid-Ohio. Where he literally, he lost out some 14 points.
Should we start a conspiracy that he deliberately went off so he can say that for every time he gets challenged about it?
Oh, amazing. But yeah, I mean, he's been the top 2 in, again, to get statistical, 71.4% of races, which is just ridiculous numbers. And yeah, I just feel like still with every race or every win, it just becomes more and more historic, really. And with as it becomes more historic, it becomes harder and harder to really find the words to describe it, doesn't it? His lead ahead of O'Ward is now 121 points. He needs 42 points to clinch it, which would be 16th at all the remaining races. But really, essentially, all he has to do is beat O'Ward at Portland, and yeah, the championship's his. And I think O'Ward has to start scoring by 14 points to keep it alive.
It's already not really a conversation, but I think the season really is the one where Palou cements himself alongside the greatest that we've seen. You know, your Dixons, your Andretti's, your Foyts, people like that. Because the Indianapolis 500 was obviously the big one. The short oval was a big one, and he's now putting up numbers that haven't been seen. Even in Dixon's dominant years, he wasn't putting up numbers to this magnitude. And there is no debate. Palou will go down as one of the greats. I mean, we're not particularly clued up in IndyCar history, but you know, I think you could well have a conversation with either top 5, top 3 of all time. And he's still only 28 years old. He's still got another easily 10, 15 years ahead of him in his IndyCar career if he wants it. So, you know, this guy isn't even in his prime years yet, and he's dominating. Like, how far can Álex Palou go? Can he win? You know, it's hard to put a number on it, but like, this guy could feasibly, with the rate he's going, win 10 championships, for example, because we were very stupid to really doubt him winning the title in our preseason predictions, really. I think we were trying to be a bit optimistic we'd have a different champion, but he's just good at. He's got no weaknesses. Sure, you can last year say it was a short ovals, but he's now winning, and you know, he's in the top 5 in short ovals regularly. You could have said the weakness, was qualifying comparatively. He got his 5th pole of the year. I think the next highest of the entire grid is, I think Herta has got 2 poles this season. So
this is the only other driver with multiple.
Exactly. So there is no weak point. He's now strong at qualifying. He's now, he's not the best at ovals, but he's likely to get a top 5 on ovals. He's good at super speedways. He's incredible at road courses. He's very strong at street courses and will always be in the victory mix. He has no weakness that people can build on, and that is just so impressive. Like Newgarden, for example, the best oval driver by a mile, but doesn't quite have the same consistency on road courses. Sure, Palou's consistency doesn't quite apply, but there is no weak spot. There's nothing that people can go, oh, I can take advantage of Palou's weakness here. You can't, because he is just such an all-rounder.
Yeah, as you say, like, there isn't a chink in his armor, really. Like, okay, I think if you were to ask him now, what's your biggest weakness? Maybe that's an interesting question to ask him, actually. I think he would probably say traffic running on ovals. I think even when he won at Iowa, I think that was still the thing that he said, that he still had difficulty compared to, say, when he's watching Newgarden or O'Ward. But yeah, I mean, in the past, I think if you were to ask him kind of what a weakness was, he probably would have said, maybe in addition to short ovals, qualifying. But it's worth focusing on his qualifying form this season, because in the space of, like, he was always a consistent qualifier, don't get me wrong. He was always up there. He was very often in the fast 6, and he was almost always in the fast 12, and very consistent. But you always had a few guys that would maybe be more reliably quicker than him in terms of that peak performance. But I feel like this season, not only has he cemented himself as by far the best racer in the series, he's now the quickest guy on one lap by actually quite a mile, and he's not doing so on a consistent basis too. Like, he came into the year with 7 poles. He's now on 12. Like, his previous best, I think last season, to be fair, he got 3, but now 5 is resounding single, his best single season in terms of poles. And he's been on the front row 7 times, so that's half the races. He's starting the top 3 9 times in the 14 races, which is just crazy. He's only not been in the top 6 2 times, and his worst start is still only 9th this season. So that's just bonkers, really. And I think it really was such an impressive race as well. I think that he just is so unfazed. Like, he was clearly the quickest guy. So it's got to be frustrating when he keeps on pulling out gaps at pretty much, like, at times a second a lap quicker than the rest of the competition. Caution. Does it again, caution. Does it again, caution. But he just doesn't panic. Like, he has such confidence in himself without it being like arrogance either, which I think is one thing I really like about him. But his composure behind the wheel is plain to see, really. And yeah, the drive he put in on Sunday probably was one of his best. But yeah, I mean, it was just astonishing, really, how much quicker he was than the rest of the field. And you obviously mentioned, like, 28 years old. He's going to have a 4th championship in 5 years with Ganassi. 6 years in IndyCar, and he's already being considered as one of the greatest ever. I mean, it's got to be record time, really, for a driver cementing himself. Like, it doesn't matter what happens the rest of his career. He's going to be regarded as a legend. And I think that 23 season that I mentioned was already a season that you are looking at and thinking, that's one of the all-time great seasons. What is this season compared to that? Like, it's probably, obviously, as you say, we're two young guys. Like, we don't know masses about what was going on in the 70s, for instance, but this has got to be up there with the best seasons ever in IndyCar racing.
Let's move on to Christian Lundgaard and Aaron McLaren. It was Lundgaard's 5th podium of the season. It was a bit of a weird one for Lundgaard because he qualified 7th. I think he said he got caught up by a yellow in the fast 12 run, and sort of just quietly moved up the order, made pretty critical moves. I think they did quite a good job in pit lane, made an excellent move with Colton Herta, sort of took him by surprise into turn 11, which was a fantastic move. And he didn't have the pace of Palou, but he held off Herta very well, especially in the final stint where he had used tyres versus Herta's new tyres. And I mean, we get to a wider point in Lundgaard where I think his inconsistency this season has been a bit frustrating when you look at results like this. But wow, 5th podium of the season. I think that is the same amount as Rossi and Rosenqvist had combined at their years at Aaron McLaren. So, wow. I mean, it's been a great first year for Lundgaard. I think his inconsistency has been a bit frustrating, but again, he just looks so at home at Aaron McLaren already, and he really is the driver they were looking for.
Yeah, I think I'll probably speak to a wider point on Aaron McLaren, that it feels like the team has finally landed stability and they're being rewarded for that. Like, I feel like in previous years, they've just felt a little bit unreliable as a team. Like, you've never really known what you're going to get from them on any given weekend. But now I feel like you can at least trust that one driver is going to be in the game every weekend. Like, I don't feel like we've seen any weekend this year where the entire team's been off it. And I mean, 11 podiums, that's their best now in a single season. And that is being split across 2 drivers because, I mean, the reason they weren't previously reaching those heights is because everything was on O'Ward. And okay, O'Ward's still been the top guy over the course of the season, but when it's not O'Ward, Lundgaard is almost always there. Like, and this has been O'Ward's best season to date, no doubt. Like, he's found that level of consistency that we've not seen before. I think he's ended July with top 5s in all 5 races across that 4-weekend stretch, which is very impressive. I know he's spoken about qualifying being an issue, but solved that a bit at Laguna Seca with that front row. That was impressive. Only his second fast 6 on a road or street course this year after that thermal pole as well. So yeah, award season's been great. And yeah, Lundgaard's having some excellent days. Like, I know you say there's been fluctuations, and I guess that's a trend that we did see with the likes of Rossi, Rosenqvist, but at the same time, like, we're seeing peaks on a far more regular basis than we saw from those other drivers. And I think Lundgaard's racecraft is really, really impressive. That move on Herta into that final corner was bold, it was decisive, it was aggressive. I thought that was a good move. And yeah, strategy-wise as well, they were just on the front foot all race. I mean, I think part of how we managed to cycle up, they were just stopping on the earlier side of those pit windows, which really seemed to pay off for them. And, you know, again, Aaron McLaren, we've sometimes criticised them for their strategy. So, yeah, 2 cars. I mean, O'Ward finished 4th in the end, didn't he, actually? He got Dixon at the end. So, yeah, it was a good, the sort of weekend that we've just not really seen from the team. And, yeah, it just feels like a new look Aaron McLaren this year.
I mean, O'Ward's doing, he's doing a quietly good job, which is weird for Pato because we never really associate him with being quiet, do we? But it's these sort of weekends where he isn't the fastest, and his race pace wasn't particularly strong, I don't think. But he still comes home with a top 4 finish, which is his best at Laguna Seca. And 5 top 5s in a row probably is a best in his career. He's got 9 top 5s in 14 races this season, which is an unreal level of consistency. You extend that to 11 top 7s across the course of the season, which is really impressive form from O'Ward. And he's having a very good season. It's just the fact Palou's having an astronomical season that his season just looks a bit average, to be honest. And everyone else beneath him looks like they're having a terrible season. But his ability now to bring home results is rather impressive. And I think the other thing about Pato, which has been criticised for in the past, is being maybe a bit too aggressive or making the wrong move at the wrong time. He's the only driver to have finished every lap this year, which is a statistic doing the rounds. And I think Lundgaard got a lap somewhere, so he's one behind. Again, that speaks to Aaron McLaren's general performance. And they've got two cars who've completed all but one lap this season. And Ward isn't making the same mistakes he used to. You feel like he's starting to get to a point, maybe not on the same level as Palou, obviously, but he's starting to maximise what he can get out of this weekend. Could he have done more than fourth? I don't really think he could have done. I think he qualified the best he could, and I think he finished pretty much the best he could, judging off his race pace. And that's shown by his top fives in a row, including those two victories. And he's becoming a very strong all-round driver. I mean, his road course form has significantly improved this season, it feels, as well. So I feel like if Palou wasn't Palou, we'd be speaking about O'Ward as a major championship contender going to next season. But again, another good weekend, I think, for O'Ward.
I think there's been seasons past where there's been questions around O'Ward's credentials as someone who can win a championship, and maybe part of that is because of the fluctuations that Aaron McLaren have had. But at the same time, O'Ward's been quite streaky in the past. Like, there were phases in 23 where he was just throwing away results through really his own mistakes, and then looks at the back end of that year like he kind of cut those out. In 24, it just returned again, and he was very up and down, very much peaks and troughs. And yeah, this year he's just eliminated those troughs, and he's had the peaks, and the lows have just been so much higher than the lows in his seasons past. And he's put together really in a regular IndyCar season what would be a possible championship campaign.
Yeah, we keep speaking about Palou's points gap. O'Ward's now got a 77-point gap over third place, so that's pretty much a lock as well. So
I mean, it's nuts. Like, can you remember a point where, with 3 races to go, 25 full-time drivers have been eliminated from contention? Scott Dixon's 2 points shy of being 200 points back from Palou in third in points. Like,
just to round off Aaron McLaren, Nolan Siegel only finished 18th, but did lead his very first laps in IndyCar a year on from his Aaron McLaren debut, which was cool.
Yeah, just a bit on Siegel. Like, I think we're seeing good flashes from him this year. Like, he's clearly improving. We're seeing good pace. I think there's been a few moments where I've thought, like, maybe wheel to wheel, he's been a tiny bit naive. Like, I think there was a moment in the race, and I'm not putting all the blame on him by any means, but maybe he doesn't really know when to pull out of a situation. Like, I think there was a point in the race where he had a bit of a scrap with Malukas and Rob, and I think he went wide, like, off the track maybe twice in that exchange, and he spun at the corkscrew as well, trying to put a pass on Foster. And again, like, it was a racing incident. I'm not saying it was Siegel's fault, but maybe just in those wheel-to-wheel moments that he needs to improve a bit. But that comes with experience. Like, I'm not expecting him to be like some wheel-to-wheel master in what this was the track he made his debut with Aaron McLaren. So he's only just coming to having had a year with the team. So yeah, I think he's had an all right season. Like, I don't think it's been a bad season by any means. I don't know where he is in points.
21st, which doesn't reflect your point particularly well.
Yeah, but it doesn't reflect it. But I think, I mean, he's obviously had a few races where he's crashed out particularly late on, whether his own mistakes or not. He's just got I think where O'Ward, as we were just saying, has been very polished. Siegel's still a little bit raw, but that's natural. He's still, 20 years old. Like, he's my age.
Do you know that every full time apart from Jacob Abel is the lap this season? All of them.
Can we just have a moment of sympathy for Abel while you've mentioned him? I mean,
well, I wanted to speak about my fact personally, but we can speak about Abel in a minute. Isn't that a cool fact? It's been 30 lap leaders of the 34 drivers who've entered a race this season. Only was it Castroneves, Larson, and Andretti didn't lead a lap at the 500.
That's a pretty good quirk. But yeah, I just feel really sorry for Jacob Abel. I mean, I think we've said in episodes past, like, he seems to have retired through every conceivable type of failure on his car. And here he is very early on in this race at Laguna Seca, going straight on at the turn 2 hairpin. And it was very odd to see him that kind of deep in the gravel at that point of the track. And indeed, the replays show that, I mean, the car just wasn't stopping. He had, I think what he said he believed was a brake failure. So just can't catch a break. I'm really sad for him, because I mean, he had a decent qualifying. He was 21st. That's one of his best efforts. There's been kind of, I think there's been a few flashes in this second half of the season since the engineering overhaul at Coin. Obviously, he's trailed VK by quite a distance, but there's been a few flashes that maybe there's something there. I know Coin have had issues in years past. I know last year, obviously, they were bad on both fronts, but when Malukas was there, the second car was never really up to the same standard. But yeah, he's been allowed so few clean, uninterrupted weekends, whether that's issues in practice, whether that's issues in races, and I just feel like he's not been able to get into a rhythm throughout this whole rookie season, and that's just led to a bit of an unfair representation, I think, on what Abel's true level is.
I really hope the listeners heard the same pun I did. You said he can't catch a break.
Sorry, that was really. I really didn't intend that.
That was brilliant. No, you need to say you did.
No,
that was brilliant.
I don't claim it. I feel too sad for him to make this a laughing matter.
We laugh at New Gardens, but I said on Twitter that I think Abel's is arguably worse, so we can laugh at it because he laughs at New Gardens, and he's a friend of the show. So
I feel like it's different when I feel like it's different when he's a rookie. And like, at least New Gardens got 2 championships and 2 Indy 500s. This is Abel's like big shot in his career, and he's just, everything's going wrong. And don't get me wrong, he's made some mistakes, and there's been times where he's been off the pace. But I just feel like it's not been conducive just to a successful season when you're having this many issues out of your control. Like, it's just been brutal.
Let's talk about the cautions, because you brought that up. That was the second caution. The first came out for an incident in the opening lap between Kiffin Simpson and Felix Rosenqvist. We never really got a good angle of this. We can't really conclusively say what actually happened.
So Simpson said that essentially nobody was committing to the inside because everyone wanted that run out of turn 6 that would get them a nice run down to the corkscrew. But that kind of just led to everything checking up, obviously, with the cars all very packed on lap 1. And ultimately resulted in Simpson running into the rear of Rosenqvist, and he ended up, Simpson, I think he had a collision with the concrete wall, then pretty heavy, sudden halt when he hit the tyres, and Rosenqvist also deep in the tyres. And I think people were saying, well, McLaughlin must have hit Simpson, and so McLaughlin's tweet I have found read, "Yo, just throwing it out there, I didn't hit the 8 on lap 1 as much as it looked like I did. Even my engineer, Ben Bretzman, thought I did." With a gif, a Simpsons gif saying, "No, it wasn't me." I don't think it was all Simpson's fault, really. I think it was a bit of a checkup, bit of contact from behind, and unfortunate situation. But the mad thing from here, Felix Rosenqvist was deep in those tyres. Like, he was deep in those turn 6 tyres, but very fittingly, well, maybe not very fittingly, in the Grateful Dead car, he was revived. Like, I couldn't believe my eyes as they got the tow rope on and he was rolled out of the tyres. Like, I mean, we go on about the integrity of these cars. I mean, this was like O'Ward. I think where was it that O'Ward had his really quite heavy crash in practice? Barber, I think. This was like that all over again. Like,
why are you so surprised? This is standard procedure for IndyCar.
I guess it is, but
they've still got work to do. We need cars smashing themselves in the Indy 500 and then just carry on as normal.
That would be a sight.
There's still work to do.
Yeah, it's mad. I don't know what. Yeah, you're right. To be fair, like you come to expect it now, but it's always quite a sight when a car is buried in the tires and just is rolled out and drives back to the pits like nothing ever happened. Like, bonkers.
Then we had Abel's caution, which we really briefly discussed, and then we'll touch on the controversial one, which was Rinus VK and Carl Kirkwood. VK braked earlier than Kirkwood expected. Kirkwood hit him. He had a stop-and-go penalty for avoidable contact.
But VK had tweeted about, like, I mean, he just tweeted to say our race was ended by someone else's mistake, whatever, with a video of Kirkwood's onboard of just basically ploughing into the back of him. Like, I don't know, there's nothing malicious from Kirkwood, obviously. I mean, he got a stop-and-go penalty, I think, for it. Nothing malicious, but, I mean, it was a misjudgment. But then, I mean, I was, like, crazy timing, like, because this was a couple of hours after the post was put out, but Kirkwood had commented on and pretty immediately deleted on VK's Instagram post of this, saying, damn, posting someone else's onboard is wild, which I thought was quite funny. But then a few hours later, did quote tweet VK's tweet of the clips. Yeah, it read, "It's a shame someone would put someone's mistake on socials like this. Yes, I misjudged someone hitting the brakes 70 foot earlier than the previous lap. Bit of a dig at VK there, maybe from Kirkwood. Sorry, I take full blame, although that's impossible to judge." It's been a bit of a season of Twitter beef, hasn't it? Feels a bit one-sided, this one, I must say, at least in the public eye. But
controversy was obviously something that happened here at Laguna Seca last year, where the cars in the gravel, and we were in the middle of the danger zone. So at this point, I think O'Ward had pitted, maybe Lundgaard as well had pitted. I can't remember, maybe he didn't. So O'Ward definitely pitted. I think maybe it was only O'Ward. And Palou hadn't pitted, Herta had pitted, and the series delayed the caution, let everybody come into the pits, and then they call the caution once everybody's made their stop. Now, this is rather controversial. It was a big talking point last year. It's a big talking point again this year. There's two different sides to it. There's the side that someone like Palou or Herta doesn't deserve their hard work to be wiped out by a caution. But on the other side, it's obviously a safety issue. There's a car on the side of the track, and you need to neutralise the race to stop the incident. Now, I see it this way. If there's a car that you think is in danger and you were going to call a caution for, why would you wait? Because for me, it's either you leave it there and you continue green flag racing if you think it's in a spot not dangerous enough to bring out a caution, or you just call a yellow as soon as you realise he's not getting out of that. That is what the danger zone is for. The drivers all know about it, and they all know the risk of staying out later as if that caution comes out. And it feels like we've seen a few too many scenarios where the caution has come out, and it's all right for Palou and Herta because they can pit anyway. It doesn't matter about this impending caution because we're going to give them the chance to pit. And look, I know there'll be the fairity argument, but it's not fair for O'Ward, who pits early and takes the risk of that caution coming out in order to cycle his position up the field. He would have been leading his strategy if he had the right opportunity, if the caution came out earlier. So we'll speak about just solely that incident for the minute. But yeah, I think you've got to call it as soon as you realise there is a threat, because there's either a threat or there's not a threat. There's VK being stationed there is not suddenly going to become a threat in 2 minutes' time. It's a threat now. So call a caution now.
Yeah, ultimately where I come down on this is timing should not matter for something that is a safety matter, and cautions exist for incidents which are absolutely a safety matter. Like, you had a car left stranded in the gravel for an entire lap, and that was a completely unnecessary compromise to safety. Like, I mean, it's weird because, like, in every other situation, IndyCar is rightly so very much het up on safety. Like, until this, like, what if someone else had the same accident? Like, VK is stranded right on the run out from pit lane where people are exiting on cold tyres because you're letting them pit. And okay, there's a local yellow flag and drivers should respect that. But, like, you can't trust that that's going to happen. Or what if there's some freak something or other happens? I don't know. But yeah, I get the point that some of the drivers, like Herta, made the point that ultimately you don't want to disadvantage those who are at the front, and they're at the front probably because they've qualified well. But I think the flaw to that point is that actually sometimes those that were high in the order or did qualify well have already pitted. Like, and that is ultimately unfair on those on that side of the coin, that opposite side of the coin, to say the Palous, the Hertas who were still on track and got to pit, because in trying to not disadvantage them, you are disadvantaging the likes of O'Ward having stopped earlier. And okay, maybe O'Ward finished where he probably would have finished anyway in the end of the race. But, like, as you say, the danger zone exists. The team know it exists. And because of that, game's the game. Like, it's part of strategy in IndyCar. And teams know that if you stay out when your competition have pitted, you run the risk of being burnt by a yellow. And yeah, yellows are for safety, so don't go meddling with that. Like, that's it. They are a safety thing. So when it comes to safety has to be the priority over competition.
And unfortunately, sometimes that's how those strategy races pan out. Like, I get it must be frustrating for a leader, but that is the risk you play. Everybody knows how the series works. And sure, it's maybe in an area which is unlikely to have an accident, but there's a chance. And that's why you bring out the caution, because there is a chance. And we're going to really wait until somebody crashes into a crashed car to learn from these errors.
Yeah, it's exactly as I say. Like, okay, there's local yellows, and you would expect drivers to respect that, but you can't have that unequivocal trust when it's a safety matter. And like, ultimately, what's the solution? Like, I personally think, yeah, just don't delay cautions because they're a safety matter. Safety first. I know we've had this debate before, like
player episode from Laguna Seca last year.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's always Laguna, is it? Do you keep the pits open? Because that kind of, yeah, it allows you to bring the caution out immediately, but also still allow the leaders to pit so they're not disadvantaged. That's something to weigh up. It like it's worked in F1. It doesn't feel like it's controversial in F1. But then, if whatever you do, you're still going to get someone disadvantaged by it. And I mean, I guess by doing that, you eliminate the factor of the danger zone, which is something that feels like it's unique and quite fun in IndyCar, I guess, to add that jeopardy. Yeah, it's just part of the game, isn't it? That's what I think.
And then the caution saga of the day was not over there, and Marcus Ericsson obviously spun with about 15 laps to go, exiting turn 6, got onto the exit, got onto the gravel on the exit and spun round. And side on, just over the crest. So the drivers wouldn't really see Ericsson until they sort of went over this crest. And Ericsson was off the natural racing line, but he was stuck there for 2 laps. And the thing is, they obviously want to give drivers time to restart themselves with the hybrid. But there's a short lap and there's a lot of drivers still going around. And if Ericsson tried to spin himself around, that would have been very dangerous potentially, because he would have just been moving himself onto the racing line into a position where cars wouldn't have seen him. So again, I'm sure you've all seen the incident, but it's again, I think this one's more clear cut than the previous incident. It's what was the delay for this one? I mean, Ericsson must have been slightly terrified sitting in that car, seeing car after car after car go past, and he's stranded. And I think Lundgaard will say it in a minute as we play the clip. But it's easy to maybe look at a knob on your dial or that sort of thing, change a setting on your steering wheel and get distracted. Then you could hit a stationary car, T-bone them, which would be a horrific accident. So, yeah, IndyCar need to do better there. Again, if it's always better just to be safe than sorry. Like, you don't want to learn from these accidents by somebody crashing into a stationary car because you left it too late.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 huge misses. Like, I don't really understand what they were waiting for here. Like, I obviously know there's the hybrid factor and you can restart, but as you say, like, even if Ericsson does get going, to get going again, he's either got to drive the wrong way to spin himself around, or he's got to drive across the track, and he's in a difficult situation to get rolling the back the right way again. So yeah, I mean, maybe with the hybrid, there's got to be a cut-off time that, like, okay, if the car's not restarted within 10 seconds or 20 seconds, you've just got to throw the caution. But I mean, in this situation, though, it's not like he was even in the runoff. It was mid-track, and I think when there's a car in that position, even if he does get restarted in 10 seconds, to be honest, I'd just throw the caution immediately. As you say, better safe than sorry, because it's a blind crest. And, like, even with, again, the local yellows, I mean, they had the driver's eye view, and you could see O'Ward's onboard during it, and you don't see where the car is until you literally get to the top of the hill and you are within meters of Ericsson. So yeah, I mean, stupidly dangerous situation. And this one was probably an even bigger compromise, or possible compromise to safety. I just really didn't understand it. Like, even with the hybrid restart, you've got a car in that much of a dangerous position. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for him to get T-boned? Like, yeah, stupid, in my opinion, really.
Look, this is a controversial topic, so we thought we'd get the opinions of the drivers for this one. So here's the thoughts of Christian Lundgaard and Colton Herta on the incident. During Green's VK sort of accident in turn 3, the series obviously delayed the caution to give an opportunity for the front runners to pit. So do you think that's the right thing for the series to do, to delay cautions to let everybody pit, or do you think that's just the nature of the danger zone, and by staying out you do get penalised for it?
I think there's pros and cons to it in a sense. I mean, I was definitely driving around thinking, why is there a car sideways, well, technically backwards, going into the corkscrew, and we're green for 2 laps? Yes, there's a local yellow, but if someone isn't really paying attention, changing a switch on the steering wheel, it can go terribly wrong. The one with VK in turn 3, I think was more fair in a sense, because you see him parked in the gravel. You're not really going to end up there unless you really aren't paying attention. And I think IndyCar, in a sense, have been consistent with that. Not necessarily to say that I agree with it, but I do appreciate that they're consistent with it.
Colton, just saying for you.
Yeah, they should keep it open they should keep the pits open as long as they can, and allow the leaders to pit at every opportunity. I think it's not fair to be one of the faster one, qualify well, and then have your day screwed by Palou. It's happened in the series, but when you run up at the front more consistently, it burns you more often. So it's something that I think is a real plus from IndyCar.
Let's go over the running order. We haven't had too many key points this week. There's a few drivers down here we'll have a brief touch on, but we've sort of discussed all the major points, which, as we said, is a more relaxed race than previous events. So Palou was victorious over Lundgaard. Herta was third. We haven't really spoken about Herta's drive to third too much, but it's been a difficult year for Colton. He's had a couple of races in a row now, or I say 2 races in a row, where he's had strong pace. I know this is his house, quote unquote, but again, a nice, well-rounded weekend for Herta, and they sort of struggled for that execution this year, which I think is good. I mean, it's still a disappointing season when all's said and done, but a second podium with the season, so it's just good to have a clean weekend, I think, for that stand.
I think you can, if you're Herta, you can probably take solace from the fact that you probably have been a top 5 driver in terms of pace this season, and it's easier, I would guess, to fix those execution issues than it is just an inherent lack of pace. And he's had the speed. And
we spoke to both Christian and Colton, as you heard in the earlier clip. We spoke to them further on Álex Palou's dominance and how they can catch Álex Palou, for quite a blunt answer from Colton Herta, as well as how Lundgaard turned his weekend around after that difficult practice session we mentioned. So here's their thoughts on those views here.
And I think
both of you see Álex to another victory of the season, and you two both remain winless. So how does it feel when you're having consistently strong weekends, week in, week out, and you are having good seasons, but you're unable to get to victory lane just because the same guy's winning every week?
Just got to do better.
Christian, anything else?
I think what's very interesting with the 10 car is, even though that they're having bad weekends, they still come out ahead, right? And that's what's super frustrating for all of us is, even if he makes a mistake, the teams makes a mistake, they make it up somehow, which I feel like we're all kind of struggling to do in a sense. And they're there every single time. You got to give them kudos for being that competitive every time, and they've raised the bar. I mean, I think we've all said that before. I thought I had a tremendously good start to the season, and I was still way behind the 10 car in the championship after 5 races, and I had 3 podiums. The only difference is he won 4 out of those.
And just to end off, Christian, you're pretty unhappy after Friday. You had a pretty difficult day. So how do you think you were sort of able to turn it around this weekend, bring home a pretty strong result?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting for me. I sat in this very chair with Colton after practice 1, and I was probably the least happy driver on the grid, leaving practice 1, and we turned it around somehow, without a practice 2. The car was really good in qualifying, and we got hurt by a yellow in the fast 12 that hurt us from advancing into the Firestone fast 6, and in a sense, I think that helped us today. We had 2 sets of new alternate tires, which I think helped our strategy.
Award was 4th with Dixon 5th. Dixon doing his classic, I say classic this season, his classic Dixon career. Don't qualify very well, do a different strategy to everybody else, and bring home a good finish.
It genuinely just does not matter where he qualifies.
Yeah, because he's always going to try I think he could start on pole and still try the alternate strategy, just because Dixon likes the alternate strategy so much. But it didn't really work out for Callum Ilott behind him. He pitted at the same time as Dixon. He started 24th, which was a pretty poor qualifying for Ryder, especially by his recent standards. But went the same strategy as Dixon. He was actually really pressuring O'Ward for a long period of time after O'Ward made his final stop as well. And the qualifying pace was clearly not there for Prema. They're 24th and 25th, but their race pace certainly was, at least in Ilot's case. And it's a third top 10 in their own Prema. It feels like they're starting to come into their own on road courses. It's the second top 10 in a row on a road street course for Ilot. So it was a difficult start to year for Prema, but they're slowly finding their gears, you reckon, and they are looking a lot more competitive than they once were. And it was a really good run, actually, from Callum Ilott. So congratulations, the best result from Prema.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third successive weekend where the team has bettered their best result. And I just, it was really weird that their package kind of start of the season fared best on ovals, the track that they were, completely alien to them. But then it is now starting to come to the fore across all types of tracks, even if it wasn't quite shown in qualifying pace this weekend. But the package was shown, wasn't it, by the fact that Ilott was able to fight on that brink of the top 5 pretty much the entire race after cycling his way up there from 24th. I think the fact that he managed to get up there as well speaks to the fact that the team is starting to understand the intricacies of IndyCar a bit better. It was a very, very good strategy. I think on the Ilott side, he's the last couple of weekends really reproved his own caliber as an IndyCar driver, obviously after that year out he had following the split with JHR. And yeah, I just feel like Prema is starting to come into, it feels like they're becoming a bit more in tune with IndyCar racing. And yes, okay, there's still a few blunders in the pits occasionally, but they're much more buttoned up than they were at the start of the year.
Will Power was 7th, the lead Penske with McLaughlin in 10th and Newgarden in 11th. Both Power and Newgarden made the fast 6, actually, which has been a rare occasion for Penske to qualify this well this season. And we aren't having the Penske disaster segment this week, which I think is a start. It's still not what Penske expect to have their best car in 7th, but it just speaks to how difficult their season has been for 7th on a road course to be considered a good weekend. And it was relatively incident-free. I'm surprised Newgarden ended up in 11th because he was running around the podium positions for quite a while, but I think he got shuffled out on some of the stops. Again, if in the grand scheme of things, it's still not a good weekend for Penske, but I think they're just taking the small wins at the minute, and that's what you've got to do. You got to get at least some points on the board because that's even that they were struggling to do. So, yeah, again, pace seems to be a problem. Laguna Seca historically hasn't been a track they've been really strong at since a return to the calendar, so I don't think it's a cause for crisis by any means. But yeah, a weekend where at least nothing went wrong is maybe a good way of putting it, considering the form they've had this season.
Given something dramatic has gone wrong to one of the cars pretty much every weekend, this is probably their second best collective race all season after that first Iowa race where they finished 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And the fact that that's the case after finishing 7th, 10th and 11th, I think does say all you need to know. And to be honest, while they didn't have any disasters, I would say they probably leave this as one of the biggest head scratches of the season, to be honest, because on a rare weekend where they've not had any of this bewildering, bizarre, whatever you want to call it, misfortune, they really just weren't very quick, were they? Like, qualifying was great, like Newgarden 4th, Power 5th, that's good going. The fact that top 10 is a success for McLaughlin speaks to the year that he's had, obviously coming into it as one of the title favourites, but that's only his second top 10 since the Indy GP. And he had a really good start to the season. I think it's easy to forget. He was inside the top 6 for the first 5 races, but since that round 5 at the Indy GP, it's just gone so wrong. And yeah, Newgarden, I guess this weekend showed that the flip side of the bad luck that he's had is that often the pace has just evaded him. This time in race trim, obviously qualifying was good. Barber, when he finished 10th, this is still his only top 10 on a road or street course all season, or at least everything a road course this season, actually, not street course as well. Yeah, now 15 winless the team, which equals that run that we've spoken about a few times from 07-08. So we're going to have to dig back further if they don't win at Portland. And
they last went winless in a season in 1999. So But they won
Wowzers.
Portland last year, they won Milwaukee last year, and Nashville's an oval. So.
Good stretch of races, but I mean, if they don't win any of the three, I mean, that just puts an extra mark on this historically bad season. I mean, they're still 9th, 12th, and 15th in points.
Marcus Armstrong in 8th with the Armstrong ability. To be fair, well, I don't think it was as usual because we saw him do something this week, which was overtake McLaughlin, the corkscrew, was it, and then Newgarden to turn 1. That's all we saw, but we saw
I think it was.
of Armstrong.
I think it was quite Armstrong ability, though he qualified pretty reasonably as well. But that's, I mean, another top 10. Like, I guess was he in the top? He wasn't in the top 10 in Toronto,
top 10 in Toronto because he got that penalty for Kirkwood.
Yeah, when he qualified actually quite well. Very well.
Again, it's always the opposite of the Armstrong ability. You never expect him to do well, and he does. But when you do expect him to do well, he doesn't. So
this was kind of Armstrong. It wasn't full-fledged Armstrong ability because it was 10th to 8th.
But he qualifies very well. Mostly, he seems to have a bit of the award where he qualifies for the fast 12 a lot, but it never seems like he transfers to the fast 6 a whole load. Anyway, Christian Rasmussen. First top 10 of the season on a road and street in 9th. He's always fireworks as Rasmussen, isn't he? I mean, the broadcast team love every single time he turns a wheel, to be honest. We hear a little rave about Rasmussen, or Rasmussen as they call him, which annoys me. But no, good run for Christian Rasmussen. He's had a couple of good road street races recently. I mean, generally his form was really good, but yeah, he qualified in 11th as well, so another transfer to the fast 12 for Rasmussen. So yeah, good run out for Rasmussen there.
And he's still 25 points ahead of Rossi. I know Rossi's had some bad luck throughout the season, but Rasmussen, I mean, even Rasmussen's 14th in points now, so he is in the 12th to 14th VK window, but Rossi's down in 18th in points. Yeah, no, I mean, Rasmussen, to be fair, was running kind of around Eilert on the brink of that top 5, and he dropped a couple of wheels, went off track, lost a few positions late on, so it could have been a even better result. But I think this is first road or street course top 10 of the year. It's kind of been a case where Rossi, I mean, I think Rossi got most of his top 10s in that early stretch of the season, to be honest, but they'd all come road and street courses, and Rasmussen's best results come on ovals. So yeah, showing he's not just an oval guy. I think worth touching on Rossi as well. Home race, title sponsor car. Wasn't a great weekend. I mean, he started with a pretty heavy crash in practice. Failed to transfer in qualifying where Rasmussen did. It really is impressive, to be fair, how Rasmussen's had the edge on Rossi for
hasn't finished in the top 10 since Detroit.
Yeah, so
it's been a rough stretch.
He's on a pretty poor run, I must admit. And yeah, the race, I mean, 15th, he made it up from 22nd, but it's not brilliant. Not what Java House, I don't think, would have wanted. But we spoke to Rossi early in the race week, actually the Monday after his Toronto crash. Great timing for him to be the chosen guy for the pre-event press conference. But yeah, spoke about a range of topics really about kind of how the team has evolved throughout the season and really since he joined back in October, and about the differences in environment as well between obviously going to a smaller team, Ed Carpenter Racing after being at Andretti and Aaron McLaren, and yeah, just a bit generally on the year and where they need to make some steps in the off season. So some good insights here from Rossi, and I've got a feature as well up on the site about ECR's progress this year. But yeah, first of all, Alex, I know you said earlier in the season kind of the team had evolved ever since you joined really back end of last year. So now obviously towards the end of your first season with the team, what differences are there between the team that you found, whether I guess October sort of time, to the team in the state that it's in now?
That's an interesting question. I don't know that there's huge differences, because kind of like I said, like once you get into the season, it's very difficult to really do much outside of, focus on the trackside performance side of things and really just try and put your best foot forward, whether that's through sim days or shaker week days or wind tunnel days or whatever. And the year's kind of split up into two categories. You have pre-Indy 500 and post-Indy 500, and the post-Indy 500 run is pretty intense for everyone. So there's not a lot of evolution that can happen. It's kind of what you have is what you get. Whereas I think the real big step will come, as we go into this off season. If you look at where the new ownership group came in, and there's a big change in what Ed Carpenter Racing is. That's not an overnight thing. Those people need to have an understanding of what the sport is, what the sport requires, to compete at the very top, and kind of identify areas that need to be tweaked and adjusted in order to get the most out of everybody. So that's not something that you can do kind of from October of having one day of testing in Indianapolis to March and having the first race. So I think that we've all made a lot of notes and had a lot of conversations about things that we need to improve in order to be better next year. But at the same time, when it's 5 races in 4 weeks, that's not something you can really implement on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, going into a Thursday prep for a weekend, if that makes sense.
And you mentioned the off season. Is there any kind of real low-hanging fruit from either a performance standpoint or an operational standpoint that you do feel like really needs targeting?
I mean, there always is. I think if you look at this year, ultimately, there's really 2 teams, 2.5 teams now, I guess, that have been the benchmark, and everyone else has fallen considerably short. And I would say that that's not specific to ECR. That's specific to just in general, all but those, let's say, 3 teams, right? So it's a bit of a weird one. I think there's been a lot of surprises this year in terms of just general performance or lack of results up and down the field. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there's low-hanging fruit on the operations side, on the performance side, on us as drivers to improve in the off season. So it is exciting to think about that, but it also takes a lot of effort and buy-in from everyone in order to accomplish that and start seeing the fruits of that labor. It's not just, oh, we need to do this and we believe we need to do this. You have to do it. And there's quite a big gap for all of us to close on those 3 teams this year.
And then for you, obviously, having spent a while at Andretti and then going to Aaron McLaren, how has the environment kind of compared to Ed Carpenter Racing? Obviously, kind of being regarded as a bit of a smaller team, I would guess. So is that environment something you have enjoyed? And just what have the big differences been to what you've experienced before?
Really, it's not. It might surprise you, but it's not that different. I think the scale is the biggest thing. But ultimately, all of these teams, that's what makes this series so challenging and so rewarding at the same time, is all of these teams are very good, and all of the engineers and the mechanics and the management and the drivers, like everyone has earned a right and worked their way to get to this level of motorsport. So I would say it's just the amount of people. I wouldn't say it's really anything beyond that. At McLaren, there's kind of, in some departments, 2 people for 1 job sort of thing. Whereas I would say at ECR, it might be 1 person for 2 jobs, which is something that, is a target of the organization, to build strength in personnel, and to take some of the workload off the people who have been managing a lot of different departments all at once. I think that's pretty high up on the priority list. But ultimately, hiring people in this sport is very challenging. It's not easy. You don't want to hire people for the sake of hiring people either. So it's not just as easy as saying, oh, we're 3 people short in the engineering group, let's go hire 3 people. Like it's a very challenging thing to do. And it's something that I witnessed at Arrow McLaren in 23 when they added the 3rd car, for me to come on board. Like it was very, very difficult in the beginning, and that whole year kind of felt like a little bit of a waste, just in terms of a lot of those people had never even seen an IndyCar before. They got to the point where they're very good, but you got to have a lot of runway in order to make hires like that. So, it's a constant challenge, not just for us, but for everyone. And I would say that, when I show up to the track in an ECR shirt versus a Papaya shirt versus an Andretti shirt, it doesn't feel any different walking in the trailer. It's still, you feel pretty proud to be a part of all of those organizations.
McLaughlin was 10th, Newgarden 11th, Graham Rahal was the top RLL car in 12th, ahead of David Malukas in 13th. Connor Daly was 14th. Kirkwood was 16th. As I said, he got a late penalty for failure to pack up, which he's had 2 penalties of that type in 2 races. So Kirkwood needs to iron that out.
We've found its big weakness. It's packing up.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of races for Kirkwood. It's been a bit more error prone than we've seen him, which is a bit disappointing. I don't know how far he's behind Dixon now in points, 15. So after such a great start to the season, it sort of curtailed a little bit after Mid-Ohio, which is a shame. But
Lundgaard's only 20 points behind now, kind of back in that picture.
Which feels weird considering Kirkwood's win amount this season.
Yeah, it's just been, as you say, it's been just as we said earlier as well, a bit of a rough few races.
Louis Foster, fast 12 again on a road course, continues that unbeaten stretch this season. And it was also his 22nd birthday on race day. So happy birthday from us, Louis. I'm sure he's probably not listening, but as a good friend of the show, as the unofficial photos, we have to wish him happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday. Wasn't a great race day to mark it, was it? But that road course record as a rookie, still transferring every race. Pretty good going. Another strong qualifying for them. Di Francesco, again, the glaring one that's he struggled a bit in the second part of the season, particularly compared to his teammates.
Siegel was 18th after a late spin the corkscrew. Rob also had a semi-spin that's corkscrew, trying to overtake Foster of all people, actually. I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, but he made quite a big lunge. He was a bit optimistic. Didn't work out. But Rob looked a bit more racy, though, than he has done in previous races, which was good. Yeah,
it was good to see. Actually, to be fair, Daly finishing 14th, that's not a bad result for a team that struggled a lot on road and street courses this year.
Di Francesco was 20th. He was a lap down ahead of Schwartzman, who's also a lap down. Ferrucci, who went off at the corkscrew late on as he spun all by himself. Again, a rough little few races for Ferrucci after that excellent run at Formula.
Huh. Rough little few races, rough little few weekends, one race, one non-race. I mean, it was a bit concerning, really. They were saying he's had injections and he's reported a bit of a nerve issue in that hand. I don't know, felt a bit like... Are you really putting your health first here?
VK was 23rd, ahead of Rosenquist, who we spoke about there, which is already Ericsson as incident. Meant he was down 25th. Another disastrous weekend for Ericsson after he looked like turning around in Toronto, back down to 20th in points, ahead of Abel and Simpson, your finishing order. Unsung hero of the weekend. I feel like Callum Milot can't really be unsung. Unless you think he is, but I feel like...
it was pretty emphatic, wasn't it? 18 positions gained.
It's a hard one, actually. Quite a difficult one this week. Have you got one that stands out?
Not particularly.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Rather tough one.
Probably Rasmussen. It's a shame he made that mistake late on because, I mean, he probably would have finished... I don't know where he was at that point. He probably would have finished 6th or 7th, I think.
Don't just say Ray, who I don't really have the integrity to put somebody who finished 12th in, but he qualified well. So
McLaughlin and Newgarden for his qualifying.
Yeah,
simply managing to get through a weekend.
You're giving Newgarden an unsung hero for not having a disastrous weekend. It was a bit of a load, isn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Maybe Dixon. Made the old strategy work.
I think Power as well, to be fair, because he just keeps quietly being the lead penalty guy. He's an honourable mention. I'll go for Rasmussen, though.
Top 3 drivers of the weekend. There's no doubt that Palou is first. I don't think that argument needs to be had. I'd personally put her to second.
I would agree with both of those.
Third place, a bit more open, but I feel like you sort of have to really go Lundgaard because his racecraft was pretty strong.
Yep, no.
Boring one this week. Boring one.
Yeah, we've had some funky ones recently with the wacky races, but now back to a more routine race. Yeah, Palou, Herta, Lundgaard.
From funny moments, Kirkwood's VK's beef was pretty good. Somebody else had a bit of beef, but I can't remember who it was.
I noticed quite a lot down today this weekend. There wasn't anything like super hilarious, but I'll run through it.
Well, could I share my favourite one?
Go for it.
Which is Andretti did a reel of Herta trying to do a British accent and saying days of the week, and it's absolutely brilliant. He gets past Monday. His accent's actually all right. He gets past Monday, and then he gets to Tuesday, and he just can't get it through this stupid hole he's got to do. And the best thing about it all is he just keeps on saying "in it" at the end of it. So it's
just
like Tuesday, in it,
Tuesday, in it. But it's funny
he
because
keeps on saying "in it," even though it's clearly not working. It's like Tuesday, in it.
It's like the perfect stereotypical British accent. Yeah, I don't actually think I've ever met a Brit who speaks anything like that, to be honest. This is so funny. Tuesday, innit? So that probably has to take the bacon, to be fair. I had quite a few. First practice, Hinch and Townsend just completely playing with Buxton. There was a rabbit or a hare type thing on the track, and they were telling him it was a jackalope, but a jackalope, I mean, I never heard of one before. Actually doesn't exist. It's a mythical creature which is like a hare with antlers. There were a couple of funny things from rain delays as well.
Rain delays? What rain delays are you looking at?
Well, the weather delays for the practice being
that's not rain, that's fog.
Well, it was miserly rain with fog and condition delays. That sounds crap. They threw it to Georgia before I think was it practice 2? I don't know. Did they? Yeah, I think because they were going to get practice 2 underway and they did a broadcast. They threw it to Georgia in the pits, but actually it was Kyle Kirkwood with the headset and the mic. And then similarly, the Indy Next race, must mention Indy Next, Dennis Hauger and Lockie Hughes, teammates crashed in race 2. Pretty mad race 2. Kyle Collette's now 42 points behind Hauger, I think. But yeah, before their race 2 was also postponed because of pesky fog. They got Josh Pearson with the mic and the headset, and he did a full grid walk, which I thought was excellent. He got his first 2 podiums actually in Indy Next, which was pretty good going. Only 19 years old, I believe. But yeah, as that was actually eventually delayed, it's quite a funny shot of Firehawk waving a black flag at the sky, which I just found incredibly amusing. There was also Ganassi with just like completely milking that Jet 2 holiday song sound advert thing.
Yes.
One of the videos was of Kiffin Simpson looking at some sea lions on a pier, which was interesting. Then this is a thing between us and good friend of the podcast, James Scott, that I don't think I've actually ever mentioned on the podcast, but the Fox starting grid where the drivers introduce themselves. Will Powers is just absolutely unreal because it's just like Will Power, Toowoomba, Queensland, Australia, but he just leaves such a big gap between the two. I just find that hilarious. But yeah, it's got to be Tuesday, innit? I think that's got to be the number one.
I also found it amusing that the booth kept getting VK and Malukas mixed up as well as
that's also on my list. Fox.
That was amusing.
Yeah, Hinch did it twice, didn't he? I don't know how that's not happened before with VK and Malukas, to be honest, because they do look. I think it was when they kept going to the drone shots or the helicopter shots, or whatever it was, that from like in the air, it is really, really hard to tell.
Surprised them not getting Herter and Kirkwood mixed up more, to be honest. When Kirkwood's running the delivery he is currently. They did it twice, I think, maybe once or twice.
Yeah, Andretti changed sponsors, but it's too lazy to change delivery, so it just confuses all again.
I had an epiphany this week of one segment we should add to the podcast. And it is how good the command is for drivers start your engines. Because I feel some weeks I get really let down and some weeks they're really good. So we need to create a tier list, or not tier list, like ranking, sort of, or a rating of each command every week. Because we need to make this competitive. We need people, all the celebrities that listen to this podcast who really do care about IndyCar to go, I'm calling the command this week. I'm going to make sure I do it well so I get a 10 out of 10. This week, I don't know who the bloke was, but he did it with some good gusto. He gave a little intro, lots of power, a good driver start your engines. I was very impressed this week, so well done to the gentleman.
Well, he even had a flourish at the end that they cut off. So he was up for it. I like it. It's not just a dull drivers start your engines. He went for it. I like the gusto.
It's so sad when you clip to somebody and they're just like, drivers start your engines. This guy, a lot of gusto, good job. We're not going to find out who he is. He will remain anonymous, but well done to him. Good command. 8 out of 10, sets a very good benchmark to start us off with. We're only going to do 4 this season, but it will be a regular feature next season because this is. I love the command. They need to make it good. I mean, it's got nothing to do with this, but they had a Cookie Monster and the Grand Marshal at IMS for the Brickyard 400, which was absolutely hilarious. We need him at the Indy 500 next year.
Yeah, well, it was so silly, but in like all the best ways. It was great.
It was great. It was really good. So we need him. Is it agendered? It? Her?
I couldn't tell you.
Whatever it is, we need the Cookie Monster giving the command next year, please, at the Indy 500. So,
well, that's
Roger
Penske, isn't it? Roger Penske with the Cookie Monster.
The Cookie Monster can wave the checkered flag or something. Give him some credit. Anyway, that's it. That's a new segment on the podcast. Stay tuned. It's going to be a regular theme going forward because this is personal to me and we need more competition on this podcast. So after last week's disaster of a podium predictor tournament, everyone did a lot better this week. It wasn't quite a highest scoring of the season, but it was one of the highest scoring of the season. So well done, everybody. We've bounced back. Archie, you are the top scorer alongside James this week with Palou. You put Dixon, James, McLaughlin, and Herter. So that was 6 points for you both. The fans put Palou, Herter, Kirkwood. So that was 5. I put Herter, Palou, Kirkwood. Tom Gamel put Herter, Palou, Award. So we both got 3. Evan put Palou, Malukas, Award. So 3 points for Palou. And Morgan put Herter, Award, Palou. So 1 point apiece for Herter and Palou. Championship standings wise, difficult week for me means your gap opens up to 4 at the top over myself. And then it's another 5 beyond that. So,
okay.
Hence times.
Interesting. 3 to go. Big predictions.
Bit of a gap. You've got a bit of a gap now. You have got a bit of a buffer. So it's not a huge buffer, but you've got a bit of a buffer. Fast 6 predicted tournament. We both went for Palou, Herter, and Kirkwood and Lundgaard. We both went for Lundgaard, didn't we?
No, I went for Foster.
Fine. Yeah, you went for Foster and the Shanks. I went for Lundgaard and the Penskes, which I said last week. I doubted myself. It would be a terrible decision. And they both got into the Fast 6. So I scored on Newgarden, Power, as well as Herter and Palou. So that was a really good week for me. I'm glad I took that Penske risk. That's paid off.
Yeah, and it's really annoying as well because Rosenqvist made it until he spun and caused the yellow. So it would have been 3 apiece.
Yeah.
Instead, it's 4-2. 2-point
4-2.
swing.
Now, we don't have the scores. We do have enough weeks. We finally will get the scores, but because of something we'll mention a bit later, we're going to have to do our predictions for Portland this week. So bear with us, and we will get you our Fast 6 of Portland. I always lead, so I'm going to let you lead us off for 1 week.
Well, I'll lead with Palou because
yeah.
And Herter.
No, I didn't go Herter this week.
I think this could be a varied one.
This doesn't feel like an Andretti track, really.
No, he qualified 8th last year. I just think he's so good in qualifying, to be honest. Go on, who did you go instead of Herter?
Well, I don't know who else you put. Lundgaard.
Okay, I didn't put Lundgaard.
Okay, interesting.
Because Aaron McLaren had an utter disaster.
Yeah, he qualified 4th here last year. And, I mean, Rosenqvist usually qualified quite well here, though. I think last year's an anomaly, is what I'm going to say.
Okay. Do you want me to throw another name out there?
Yeah, go on.
Armstrong ability?
No, not for me.
This isn't in the Armstrong ability, is it, in qualifying well? But he's going to qualify
I've put a lot of faith in Aaron McLaren because I've gone Award because I feel he's now starting to qualify well, especially in road courses. That is,
okay.
Good sneak in.
So we'll recap. First 3 are only same one as Palou. I've gone for Herter and Armstrong, and you've gone for Award and Lundgaard. Throw a name. Go on, throw another name out there.
Well, I'll do it too because Power and Newgarden worked well for me this week, so I'm going to stick my faith with them.
Okay, so I've gone for Power. My final 2, gone double. I went for Rahal and Foster.
Thought you might do that. Yeah, I've got Graham.
Okay,
it's my final one. So we both got Power, Palou, and Rahal of all people. It's a strange one.
Yeah, but I mean, he was on pole a couple of years ago.
Fast 6 last year.
Oh, we got it. I'm looking at starting lineup. He got a penalty, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. RLL, this seems to be one of their best tracks, to be honest. So
we got 2 cars in the Fast 6 here last year, so it's entirely possible. I think that's it for Laguna Seca. I'll be honest, I feel like Laguna, as much of it is a great track to drive, isn't a fantastic track for racing. It's won the races of the year, which is a bit, it's there for me, which is a shame because it's a great track. It's just more of a driver's track than I think it is a viewing track, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's nice to look at though. That always helps.
Yeah, it's got a nice aesthetic to it, but it's got a bit of aura to it, but the racing isn't superb. It's quite hard to overtake, isn't it? Especially
it doesn't help that Palou's so much better than anyone else.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That doesn't help things, but hey ho. Hey ho. Anyway, that ends off a busy stretch. Thanks for the support as always. We appreciate all of you listening, and we do hope you enjoy the podcast. I know a few people said about our music, so don't worry, that is changing. We'll make it less dramatic, and we'll find something a bit more upbeat. We're just going to wait to the end of the season to find something a bit more funky, upbeat,
Yeah,
positive.
I still find it so crazy that we've got to this point in like 2 and a bit years where we have loads of you listening to us.
We never expected anybody to listen to the show, by the way. Like when we started, we're like, if anyone outside of our close circles listen to this, we're very pleased. And
so thank you so much.
Yes,
it means a lot to us.
There's plenty of you who I hope listen, judging by the numbers increasing progressively. So I hope you enjoy the podcast, everybody. I hope you stick around. And of course, if you do have any feedback, whether good or bad, please comment any feedback you got. We do read all of them, and we appreciate the feedback as always. So if you do have anything to say, please share it.
I would say as well, like we'll probably try and do some Q&A episodes where you can send in questions over the off season. But like any given week as well, if you want us to answer any questions on the podcast, we will happily dedicate time and a section to that as well.
And dare we say it, off season is coming up. So if you have any ideas of what you want to see in off season,
don't say it.
Yeah, but I'm giving the viewers a chance. They might want a specific episode off season. So off season's coming up. We're going to have 6 months of content. So if you do have anything you want to see, give us a shout because we will have to fill 26 weeks of episodes. We probably have got ideas for about 10 of them, but we'll need help for the other 16. So
I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about
if you have any ideas, please share them. And any feedback, whether positive, negative, or you just want to say hi to us, please do share because we will read all of your comments very happily. Usually about this time of year, we do a driver market episode, but there hasn't really been much of an opportunity because there's not, strangely, it feels like people are going to be very similar places next year, and there just hasn't really been any discussion. So it's not really worth having an episode yet because it feels like we're waiting for one domino to fall. And once that does, it could be Palou and Malukas. Everything will start rolling. So because there just hasn't been much discussions about next year yet, there's no real point doing an episode for no reason. But it is an off week next week, but we do have an exciting episode planned. We should be joined by a first-time guest of the show, which will be very, very cool. I think it's going to be, we haven't spoken to this person yet, but I think it's going to be a really insightful episode into maybe the side of a racing driver that we don't always see and deserves a bit more of a limelight.
Yeah, my teaser would be it is someone that people probably want to hear from, but you have not really heard from them since the end of last season. We'll put it that way.
So yeah, stay tuned. It should be a really good episode, another guest on the show, and hopefully you enjoy the guests we get on the show. We seem to be getting a few more recently. We've had a couple of really good feature interviews this year, so another one hopefully coming your way next week. But for this week, thanks very much for watching, thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.